Hello, everyone,
Hi.
and welcome to the next episode of, what do we call this again?
Buddy fight budget recipes?
Budget deck recipes.
Budget deck recipes.
That's all it is.
Eep.
You can go with budget deck recipes too, but I think the other one is a lot faster.
Budget deck recipes.
Yep. Rolls right off the tongue.
Yep.
Anyway, we got some comments in on possible decks that people would like to see done, and one of the ones that we saw was Duel Dragons.
Which is a really easy thing to do since this is basically my deck.
Yep. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on where you're coming from, Danger World is a relatively cheap clan to build with, as only a couple of their cards are very expensive.
Yeah,
That comes from two reasons. One, a lot of their good cards are stuff you could get from the trial deck, or were commons or uncommons in the sets. And two is because, well, they haven't gotten a whole lot of support.
Look, thankfully they're finally getting it in a new extra
Yeah,
booster.
they're going to be getting new stuff, and we might even do a new one when that happens, depending on if any of us change our decks up to fit with that new stuff. But for now, this is basically the result. This is probably one of the what's the word I'm looking for here? Easiest to use builds of Duel Dragons,
Yeah.
because it is straight up
Get
get
there.
in there. But with a different twist, unlike most Danger World, because as you can probably tell from this layout, there is no weapons, and we'll get into that as we go into the recipe. So let's start with what's here first.
Alright.
The size 0 of the deck.
Yep. Garg.
Garg.
Garg is great. Garg is love. Garg is life. He is amazing because,
Despite the deck not using size 3s, it does have a lot of 2s.
yeah.
Which means that sometimes you'll want to have a full field, but you got a size 2 on your, center. You can't just throw 2 1s down to go with it and call it a day. But with size 0, though, you can.
Yeah.
Because luckily, Garg has, even though he doesn't have a crit, he's got,
3 attack.
3 attack and 2 defense. Which means that while he may not be killing everything in the world, he will be giving you extra boost when necessary, maybe doing a little extra chip damage.
And you'd be surprised how many big hitters have only 3 defense.
Yep, and it even hits those small defensive dudes.
Yeah, he is very, very nice.
And worst comes to worst, you can have him hit guys on the side while you have your other guys do everything else.
Yeah, you just place him down and he just sits there like your little buddy.
He doesn't seem like much, but trust me, he gets annoying when you're trying to get things done, and then they start wiping out your guys when you don't want them to.
He bites at your ankles.
But you also don't feel like investing in attacking him, too, because
he's a size 0.
He's very small, but you have to if you want to mess him up, because size 0s can be a pain in the butt.
Yeah, he's small compared to most size 0s.
Yes. Though I don't know what the dungeon ones look like, so...
Yeah, of the ones we know.
Yep.
So yeah, moving on.
Next, the buddy of the deck, Sylphid.
Sylphid. He is the 1000 Rapier of the deck. Very similar stats, only he gets +2 more defense than 1000 Rapier. He is just a pal.
Yep, again, buddies can just kind of be whatever unless you run things like Ultimate Buddy. In which case, that would obviously have to be your buddy. But since she does not, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Next thing on the list...
Vulcan.
Vulcan got the 5k power as well, but he also can occasionally give you extra life.
Yeah.
Which may or may not be okay. I mean...
I only use it on occasion.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty great. just if you need it. Sometimes I have had games where that one life has saved me. Like, I only needed that one life in order to hold on.
Yeah, I don't mind gaining the one life if it comes with the monster. In fact, you might even consider making it a potential buddy so you can buddy call and then gain 2 life from him being called out.
Yep, and Vulcan's pretty easy to get your hands on.
Yep, and then just rush him with it. It's pretty nice. Now, Guile Koiga.
Guile Koiga is a monster.
Yep, he's I forgot its name. Dragon World's Spike Shoulder. He's Danger World Spike Shoulder Dragon, but he doesn't pay a gauge to be brought out.
Less attack and defense than Guile. Than Gark, I mean.
Garg has more than Guile Koiga.
Yeah, but it's that 3
Guile
right
Koiga.
there.
But yep, you can't underestimate the power of high crit. It is your friend.
Yeah.
It'll push your opponent down a lot faster than they want to if it hits, which means they have to block it more often than not. So it's always good to have around. Maybe not in set of 4 for reasons of you don't want to get a bunch of them when your opponent's turtling.
Yeah.
Because Danger World doesn't have a whole lot of ways to deal with that.
The only real way to deal with it is to just destroy them the good old fun way.
Yep, unless they're, it's just got a size 2, and then you have a chance, but we'll get to that later, too.
Yes.
Next, what is this guy? I forgot his name.
His name is... I cannot pronounce half of their
Give me
names.
the guy.
He's Bloody Wings Alseer?
Ellie Seeger.
Ellie Seeger, thank you.
I guess this is what Duel Seeger was doing when he was younger. I know they aren't spelled the same, by the way, before anyone says anything.
Yeah. He is a 4/2/4. That 2 is nice. The 4, you kind of wish it would be higher, but you know what? He's just a good support all around.
Yeah, who knows? If they ever get a actual Dragon Energy clone, that will be a pretty decent thing because he gets up to the proper number when he's being attacked, and can go up to a decent number when he is attacking. So, okay, it's fair enough. I would definitely say he seems to be the kind of guy who could be a alternate. Like if you had another monster that you wanted to use, but we'll get to that at the end of the segments.
Yes. And then one more grade 1.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was here.
Grass Runner!
Grass Runner, basically smaller version of Vulcan.
With slightly more defense. They really just interchange 2 stats. He does the exact same thing. If you want to make a full-on life deck, you're going to need him.
Which is an option too, I guess. I mean, just run your 4 invigorating breaths. The, whatever that one... Maybe I wouldn't
Lord
even
Aura?
I wouldn't do that even if I was making it. Like, I couldn't even finish that sentence.
It just stops you right in your throat.
No, that card is not very good. Like, I'm all for gaining 1 life, but let's be real here. Paying a gauge every turn as
you mean the other one? That's the
Wild.
Wild, yeah, Night in the Wild. I was thinking of Lord Orders. You get more gauge.
I'm all for, like I said, I'm all for using a gauge to gain a life, but the reason I'm okay with it with these 2 guys is because they also can attack and do somewhat okay damage for their sizes. But the Call 'em the Wild, it's like, why wouldn't you just throw in Dual Law and throw really big guys in your center?
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like it'd be a much easier investment. But otherwise, you can still make a decent life gain deck. Just remember that you have to use weapons if you do.
Yes.
And weapons are mileage may vary in various builds of Dual Dragons. I mean, they're good, but you can also find ways to use them without. This deck has been doing pretty well without them.
Yeah. Then that's because of the size 2s.
In fact, we had to take them out because they were doing so much nothing because of how the deck was built.
Yeah, because this deck, basically its main job is to turtle behind its 2s.
Yep. So, and speaking of the 2s, let's start with the first one over here. Zargus, the Raging Dragon.
He can only come out late game. He needs 4 Dual Dragons in the drop in order to come out. But, because of that, he is enormous.
7/3/7.
You'd be surprised how fast you're going to get up to those 4 monsters, though.
Yeah, especially later if they get some better gauge costs,
Yeah.
so you can justify throwing in the what is it called? Not meditation.
Lower order.
Yeah, lower order meditation. That is what it's called. I
Yes.
thought so. Because then you can just throw a bunch of stuff in there and just start ditching it for good effects. One day. And then next, Ganon Pork.
Ganon Pork, yes.
I mean, Diatlus.
I just call him the pig. He is amazing. He is, pay 1 gauge, he gets penetrate. He is a 6/5, which just, so good. He's so good.
I can see him wrestling a couple jimmies here and there.
He has wrestled a couple jimmies in his run in this deck. And then we get onto his buddy, as I like to call him, Twin Horde Dragon Arc Giraffe.
Arc Giraffa.
Yep, Arc Giraffe, thank you.
Giraffe. He's not even a giraffe.
I called him the pig and the giraffe. This is basically Animal Farm the deck.
This guy is probably one of the best guys in the Duel Dragons artillery.
He has size 3 stats and double attack.
It was a 7/2/6?
Yeah.
Pay 2 gauge, double attack. That's pretty darn good, all things considered.
The only thing you really gotta worry about is him getting bounced or destroyed.
Yep, but that's gonna happen pretty much no matter what nowadays.
Yeah. He is beautiful and I love him.
And he's like, $1.06? No, he's like $2, I think. $2 a card each. You can find him around that price on various sites.
I only run 3 because of his gauge cost. Because you will start to run low on gauge.
Yep. That's fair enough. Next one. His name is Emily, Fire Manipulation Dragon.
I cannot pronounce their names.
Well, I will do it then.
Sorry.
Let's see here. Fire Manipulating Dragon Volgarade.
I'm
just going to call him Volvagia.
Volvagia.
That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah. He is another 7/2/6, except he doesn't have a skill and you don't have to pay gauge for him. He also is very annoying because you can just spam the field with him.
Yep, 7/2/6 is pretty decent.
1 dies, lay down another.
Yep. They are pretty okay. And, well, no deck is without its spells. The things that will kind of keep them backed up. So let's start with the main one here.
Duel Law! You pay 1 gauge to set it, and then whenever someone tries to link attack you, they must pay 2 gauge.
Which is pretty good, especially since a good amount of Duel Dragons do have the 7 or 6.
Yeah.
They'll more often than not force it to happen.
Yeah. It doesn't stop your opponent attacking, it'll at least annoy them.
At least annoy them. It's harder to use against, bigger ones. Like, obviously, Ancient World won't care too much.
Yeah.
But against things like Katana World and Magic World, they're going to have to work around it. They're not going to have much of a choice.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of ways to deal with things like Magic World and Katana World, Crimson Slash. This is a way to really deal with anything, actually.
Pay 1 gauge, destroys a size 2 or 1 monster.
On the field, if you do not have a monster in the center. So basically, they take the time to kill your guy, which is in the center, which they're going to have to do, unless they're, not feeling like winning.
Mm-hmm.
And then when your turn comes around, you just start blowing up their stuff. It's pretty simple, straightforward, to the point.
Yes.
I would recommend, if you have room or a slight preference and different preference in how many monsters you want to run in your build, to go to 3 or 4. In my Armor Knight deck, I actually do run, I believe, that amount, because I don't use much gauge in that deck, and this card is really good.
Mm-hmm. Sadly, Duel Dragons do cost a lot of gauge, so...
Yeah, well, what are you going to do? Next, Exorcist Stomp.
This makes so many people mad, especially if you're going against Katana World and you just want to blow up their scroll that already has other things inside it.
I think you all know what this card is. I believe everything has some equivalent to this, at least by now.
Yep.
Pay 2 gauge, destroy an item or spell on the field. And that's basically it. If you can afford to put it in your deck, I always recommend doing so. I don't think Magic World does, but then again, they have oops, so whatever.
Yep. And then standard shield.
Standard shield. Wish they had more shields.
They need them.
But if they do, you know what to do. Just throw them in. Because especially if they get a shield that protects the monsters.
Mm-hmm.
Or a Wrath of Dragon clone.
Yeah.
A Wrath of Dragon clone would be amazing in this.
So good.
But yeah, shield's always good. Always good to keep around.
Now this card, I know some of you are scratching your head because of its second effect, in which you can just play rock, paper, scissors in order to deal damage to your opponent.
Man, do I look like Dungeon World here? I don't really know rock, paper, scissors.
But yeah, you need to have an item in order to do that. But the thing is it destroys someone's item.
It still destroys their item, even if you don't have a weapon equipped to yourself. So whatever, you basically have to gauge to do what Exorcist Stomp does, but only the weapon.
Yep.
It's okay. It's a card you can, so you can consider using.
It's good against Dragon World.
Yes, it is. This is true. Dragon World is like the best when it comes to using weapons. Funny how that works out, considering
this was the world that was supposed to be that.
Or at least based on their designs, they look like they're supposed to be that.
Mm-hmm. And their card designs.
That's what I said.
I thought you meant card art. I don't know. I'm crazy. I'm gonna go sit over here.
Anyway, 3 may or may not be the number that you like. It depends on... It really comes down to preference if you like Exorcist Stomp or Guillotine more. I generally like doing the Exorcist Stomp because they never... Not Exorcist Stomp, Guillotine, because they never see it coming and it makes them waste an attack.
Yeah, it acts as a shield in a way, but only towards weapons. And also the reason why I run more of it is because, well, Exorcist Stomp costs 2 gauge, and I only really need it every so often.
It's a really good thing to use against the Magic World, since they're most likely not attacking with their weapon.
Mm-hmm.
But this one's good for people who like to get in there. For the gals amongst us.
Mm-hmm.
You can use it against them.
And then we have our final spell.
Final spell. Thunder Devastation. Was it 2 gauge? Yeah, 2 gauge. Destroy all monsters with a defense of 5,000 or less from your opponent's field.
Protects you from Magic World and Katana World.
Guarantees does that. Probably Dungeon World too. At the very least, the Adventurers.
Yep.
And it's a good field wipe.
Mm-hmm. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's a good thing to just throw down.
Yep. I generally go for like only a couple though, because usually one wipe's all you need.
Mm-hmm.
And second, again, like things like Ancient World are probably not going to care too much.
Yeah. Tink.
Especially if they got a big boss. Especially if they're planning to use a big boss monster to get in there, which most likely they will. But definitely keeping it around is a good idea, because it is a good way out of problems. Man, that's basically the deck, or at least this build for budget.
Yes.
There are other alternatives you can do, Emily, if you would get the...
I pulled them out earlier so I could show. Okay, so like I said earlier, this is basically my deck. The only difference is I run 2 Demon Goldel, and because we pulled him, I run 1 Emperor. These guys are not that expensive. You can deck them in.
They're $5 and what, 10? For the Galcarn, he was 6 or 7, or
I think he was 10.
Galcarn is not super expensive, but if you want to get a bunch of them, he will add up.
Yeah. So, also, I wouldn't recommend it. I only really play him because he's funny.
In my personal opinion, I'm not a huge fan of Galcarn, at least especially not anymore.
Lizard pick.
Well, not just that. It's just after seeing Inferno Armor Dragon do his thing, and even though they do have a few step backs, Ancient World doing its thing, he just doesn't compare the same way anymore.
Yeah.
Actually, almost anything with Ultimate Buddy will get over him.
Yeah. Speaking of Ultimate Buddy, you can build a 4 him with him as a 5 him with him as the buddy in order to get 3 soul with him, and then he has 3 counter attacks, which is pretty cool.
Yep.
That and getting him to 10 attack is pretty great.
Now, if you're done with that, I'm going to do what I was expecting you to do. Talk about alternative ways you can build the budget deck, which is what this segment's called. That's what I meant by give me the commons.
Commons.
Because there is obviously other ways you can build this deck. Especially if you like weapons. These are... Oh, there they are. Like, I know there are people out there who might want to use things like the spears, obviously. Which, if you want to get in there and face yourself, dude, is always an option. I find that to work a lot better with Armor Knights because, well, these guys have such big defenses or guys that you can turtle behind. I just like doing it.
Mm-hmm. It's much easier with dual dragons to turtle.
But it's not saying that there isn't an option. You can throw those in, and with those you can throw in their form of dragon energy, which I would like a lot better if you didn't need the weapon to use, since no one else needs a weapon to use theirs.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Maybe they'll get a new one.
Hopefully.
Let's see, Invigorating Breath.
Yeah, Invigorating
is a card that you'll have options to use when you use weapons too. If you do, I usually suggest 3 at most, because that last one's not going to help you ever.
Again, 1 life.
1 life. They have no extra monsters on my field, and as a result, I'm probably going to lose more than that 1 life I gained back.
Yep.
I am so great. That's why the first 2 are the best ones to get.
Starting off with that Invigorating Breath.
You can also, like I said, it's not like you'll be breaking a little past a small budget if you throw them in, but Demon Goldel is a option that can exist, say for fighting Dungeon World. Just because people are going to have at least 1 or 2 boulders in their deck.
And they're going to crush him.
In fact, I have a Katana World deck that uses that 1 shield that negates the attack of a guy with Soul Guard. It gives result specifically because there's enough people who
use Soul Guard,
who run guys with Soul Guard that I'm like, yeah, I'll use it just to mess with them. And like she mentioned before, there is always the option of a life gain deck.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about this guy. He is the size 2 version of Vulcan and Grass Runner.
Vulcan and Grass Runner, Durantis are all guys who can give life. They all have pretty okay crits on top of the gaining life, so you can run in there with your guns blazing and just try to do damage or destroy their stuff after you gain some life.
Once again, we would not recommend, though, running Night in the Wild with them.
Still haven't a Night in the Wild, primarily because once per turn is dumb.
Yeah, it should be like every turn you play a monster.
I demand to be able to spend 5 gauge at once.
Yeah.
Maybe I need more than 1 gauge to not die next turn. Or 1 life to not die next turn.
It should have either been like a Green Dragon song, or it should have been spend as much gauge as you want.
But what are you going to do? Other guys that can be used, whether you want them or not, are guys like Baralios and Dorcas.
I wouldn't recommend Dorcas.
You wouldn't?
No, I tried to run Dorcas before. He really slows you down. It's nice to have somebody who has 3 crit and 7/7 that you can just play at the start of the game, but it's like he has no secondary effect. Once he's get killed, which most likely will happen next turn if you aren't careful, he's gone, and you just spent 2 gauge for 1 turn of hitting.
That's fair enough. I believe I did say that once before, that I am always afraid of using guys who pay 2 gauge when there's a lot of things that exist that can just blow them up. So
And then
they have to do a lot to turn there.
I used to run 2 of this guy. he is funny. Because it's like late game, all of a sudden you just pull out this guy with
Crits.
4 clit, yes. 4 crit for nothing. He has no cost except for having 4 monsters in the soul, so you can play him in other decks, like if you want to play him with Armor Knight.
In the drop zone.
In the drop zone. I can't talk.
His 4 crit is pretty impressive, and his 6,000 power means he can run over things too. If you want to build a deck around that, that's a cool thing to have, especially if you're running your weapons. You can throw him onto the side.
Yeah.
And then basically kill their center with your penetrating weapon, and then have him hit directly for the 4.
And he plays nice with Armor Knights. I've mentioned that.
And, well, after that, for Dual Dragons, there's not really
much else you can do.
Much else to say, really.
If you want to tech in a more zeros, you can do that.
Yeah, you can go more zeros too, yeah.
Just
if you do want to go with the
Emperor,
Emperor, if you do want to go for the Emperor and do the Emperor Duel deck, you can try to throw in extra zeros in if you wish. There's that way you can make sure to just kind of like run into them and shoot them in the belly, etc.
Just know it's gonna cost a lot more.
Yeah. But it all depends on how your playstyle is. If you
really want to go nuts, make him your ultimate buddy.
Maybe that's a possibility. Who knows? It could work, but that's obviously not his budget deck.
No,
for a budget deck.
Not a budget deck.
For if a lot to spend, or if you know someone who doesn't want to spend a lot, and wants to play Dual Dragons from Danger World, this is a pretty lean build, pretty straightforward, pretty good.
This deck has treated me very nicely over the time that I've been running it.
Yep, and hopefully in the future it will get better.
Yeah, like when I first built it, and I built it wrong, it wasn't that great, but now in this form it's done a really great job.
We've been
fidgeting with it.
Yep, non-stop, so I guess that's it for this time. Let's see, if I call next weekend, or this weekend, depending on when I put this up, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be putting it up soon, because I really want to make sure people understand that this is going to be happening soon. Next week we get new trial decks and the new booster. After all this waiting, they're finally almost out here.
Dungeon World!
Yep, we get the new trial decks. What were they? 4 and 5?
Yes, 4 and 5.
Yep. And booster 3. Drum's Adventures.
Yay!
Drum, or something like that. So, a bunch of decks will be getting a chance to be built. We're going to probably see what things we take a liking to in Dungeon World, because everyone in our group seems to be somewhat interested.
I'm building adventurers.
What kind of adventurers?
I'm probably going to be building character adventurers, because I know not a lot of people want to touch them. Just because they don't like the idea of playing characters from the show, but that magical dancing magician Tetsuya.
I'm going to be doing a dungeon, and one I'm definitely sure of that. I'm feeling like I'm going to probably base it around that one ogre. The one with the lifelink.
Yeah, Thunder Sparta, I think.
Thunder Sparta?
I think his name is Thunder Sparta.
Whatever. I'll look it up later. But the point is, I like that guy. That's the kind of thing I wanted to see running around in Ancient World.
Giant grade 2s.
It's super huge monster, and he's only grade 2. Holy crap. That was before we realized Ancient World was specifically good around just the main guy.
Remember the days when we thought Ancient World was going to be all Cthulhuid ancient beings, and they were just going to all be huge?
I remember that. I really wish they were going to be just a bunch of different Eldritch monsters, because that's what I thought they were going to be, but whatever. That's neither here nor there now.
The past is the past.
But the point is, I think I'm going to build around that because that guy's pretty cool. But who knows? Maybe that'll even change. But also, let's see, what is it? Katana World and Magic World and Dragon World will be getting new stuff. Might try to make some new decks. Might make some new budget decks. Actually, Yuta Man comes out with them.
Mm-hmm.
So we might be trying out a wizard build on a budget. Because that card will make it somewhat possible.
Yes.
So I guess that's everything. Any last words? Any new information you want to bring up? Or...
Poor Ancient World got taken out of Booster 3.
Oh, right.
They need help.
Like, we don't want to anymore.
Also, hopefully we'll be getting promos sooner or later.
I'd hope so. They are some pretty neat ones that I want to have, even if just to have.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I have seen that we've been getting new full card arts of Buddy Fight, which means I might start putting together some
more mats.
Buddy Fight mats again with actual Buddy Fight art, which will be a special treat for me. I'm still personally waiting for
women.
No, well, there's already one in particular, M.
I know.
And now you just made me forget her name.
Hardy the Devastator?
Yeah, Hardy the Devastator. I'm personally waiting for her, either her full art or her Impact's full art to be shown and at a decent size. Because I would love to have a mat that had her on it. Her art is so good.
Her hat is great. And so is her boobs.
Well, yes, this is true. But yeah, actually, I personally just want to get them in general. I just never had a chance to collect any of them because I did want to build a deck with her.
Yes.
Just because. But, you know, say lovey.
And I think that's all we have for today.
Yep, so that will be it for this budget deck profile, as Emily calls it.
Yes. I can't say words or remember names.
Fine. We're just going to call it budget deck profile. I think that's the best way to go.
Budget deck recipe profile.
Budget deck recipe, yeah. We'll get this down.
With new series, we're still learning.
I'm just going to call it BDR. How about that?
BDR.
Yep. Yeah, that'll work. BDR. If you guys have any particular decks you would like to see on our little channel, just feel free to comment what deck you'd like to see.
BDR.
BTR. Particularly attribute if possible. Or if there's a specific non-expensive guy you want to see be put into a budget deck. Or heck, even if you want us to just talk about a regular deck in general, we might do it. Though not as likely, because usually we try to save that for our own
personal decks.
Personal builds and decks, or ones that we see on the road.
Yes.
So, till next time, everybody.
See ya!
What she said.